In 1977, one of the most strange alien encounters in the history of the Pacific Northwest would happen. The case stands out not only for the incredibly bizarre being the boy encountered, but also because physical evidence remained after it. In addition to this, 2 veteran UFO investigators would examine the case, and both found the witness's story to be highly credible. In this episode, we will examine the alien encounter of Jose Cantu. On January 19, 1977, in the town of Harrah, Washington, 9-year-old Jose Cantu woke up early, headed into the kitchen, and began making his breakfast. That day, Jose's father had already left for work, and rather than wake up his mom, Jose decided to let her sleep. It was around 6:30 a.m. when Jose would glance out the window and see it. He wasn't sure what it was at first, but knew it was unlike anything he had ever seen. After a few seconds, Jose ran into his mother's room and woke up his mom, Martha, telling her something was outside. However, the exhausted mother didn't believe him. Jose persisted and kept asking his mom to come look, but she refused, rolling back over and going to sleep. After a minute or two, Jose left his room and decided it was time to go outside and get a closer look. As Jose approached, he decided to go and hide behind a shed. In a few moments, he peeked out and would be stunned to see not one, but 2 greenish creatures. The beings appeared to be robotic in nature, or at least partially. Unlike most close encounters of the third kind, the beings weren't humanoids. They had no legs and appeared to have a long base, which rotated in a circular pattern, and below this, on the very bottom, there was something, possibly tiny wheels. The being had short arms and a large round head in which 2 antenna-like devices protruded. Perhaps even most odd, the being had 1 large eye in their face and also had a pig-like nose. Behind the creature sat 2 UFOs, and Jose stated he could see another one of the strange beings inside it. It's important to point out here it's not evident how specifically he saw this. After a few minutes, the 2 beings would turn and head towards the craft, with one heading toward each UFO and climbing up a ramp. The UFOs then ascended and disappeared into some type of cloud. Jose then ran inside and once again told his mom what happened. However, she still didn't believe him and told him to get ready for school. As Jose got to school, he would continue to tell others though, and soon a teacher's aide named Diane Gomez would hear Jose out. Diane knew Jose well and described him as being very serious. As such, she didn't think he would be creating this story. She and several other aides decided to take Jose home around 10 a.m. and have him show them what happened. As they arrived there, Jose would show the places the beings were. Diane and others would be amazed at the physical evidence as they could see indentations on the ground. Martha would come outside too and see the strange indentations. As she glanced at them, she realized she should have listened to her son. She would later tell the press that if her son ever called her to come and look, she would do so without hesitation. After looking at it for some time, Martha would head inside and call a neighbor named Irene Sanchez. Martha asked Irene to come over so she could get her opinion. Around this time, the aides took Jose back to school, and Martha and Irene would continue to investigate. They would find a 10-foot circle where the grass had been pressed behind the garden. Later that evening, Jose's dad would return home too and see everything. Word would soon spread around Jose's encounter, and soon 2 UFO investigators, Bill Vogel and David Akers, would arrive. It was a few days after the incident, and the circle indentations were still visible. The men would run several tests and note there was no radiation present. Both men would interview Jose and find his story to be consistent and for him to appear credible. Vogel would note the area has a long history of UFO sightings and bizarre activity like cattle mutilations. Furthermore, there appeared to be UFO sightings and reports of strange lights in the area leading up to the event. Still, what can we make of this case? Was this just one boy's imagination gone wild, or did this boy have a run-in with a very bizarre looking extraterrestrial? In general, it's our opinion the case seems pretty credible. However, skeptics have pointed out several weaknesses in the case. First, the story relies solely on one eyewitness, a boy, in the interviews, which were conducted by biased ufologists who probably asked leading questions. Second, the being was incredibly bizarre and seems like the figment of a young boy's imagination or something out of a cheap sci-fi movie. Still, as many point out, this is a bit of a double-edged sword, as if a person was going to make up an encounter, it would probably make more sense to include Greys or Nordic beings. We've covered many cases involving some pretty weird beings. One other thing skeptics also point out is the boy wasn't clear how he was able to see the inside of the craft, the beings inside it. However, this might have been a detail that he mentioned but wasn't recorded for whatever reason. All this said, the case does certainly have some credible characteristics to it. The Mr. Cloud is something we see from time to time. There are various theories as to what this is exactly, but this does show up in other cases. One example is the 1954 Ayacucho, Peru encounter, an incident we covered on this channel in which a being used the mist to disappear. Other cases involve people driving into mist only to come out on the other side with hours of missing time. One other factor that seems to have credibility is the witness. Jose was known to be a serious and honest boy, and it's tough to imagine that a 9-year-old could create a story like this and fool several UFO investigators and educators as well as his parents. In addition to this, there was physical evidence, indentations, and flattened grass left at the scene. Some skeptics say the evidence could have been easily created. Still, it seems unlikely the boy could have created this without his parents knowing and doing it by himself. It also doesn't seem likely the parents would have created it either. If they were in on it, why wouldn't Martha allege to see the UFO too, and the alien as well? In sum, the story of Jose Cantu is surely an interesting one, and perhaps one day someone else will report these odd entities.